Mr. Vice Chair, we are live and ready to go. Did you get the agenda up, or do you need to put it up?
I did. I have it, and I will call the meeting to order at 3:33 on Wednesday, October 29th. Present, Bill Irving.
Scott Shepard.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Terrific.
All right. Review of the minutes from the October 22nd meeting. Any comments? That document.
Nope.
Didn't receive any.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Approved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes. Any outstanding questions and discussion of new questions from prior budget chapters?
I guess the only thing, and it came out today, we're getting to areas which have revolving funds and capital funds. It'd be nice to figure out how to get a 360 view of all of that, as opposed to just operational budgets. But I assume we will talk through some of that.
Yeah, so open to suggestions. What we did different this year is we have the revolving fund chapters, or the revolving fund chapter, and what we did, which we haven't really operationally done before because we haven't always had the need to do it, but in terms of maximizing the value of providing the information, is we have included a proposed budget for 2026 of those revolving funds. And so if, Parks and Recreation is the best example. I know we're not talking about that today, but in the Parks and Recreation revolving fund, because they fund so many activities in the revolving, they have all of their programs as budget line items where you can see the estimated revenue and expenses and anticipated expenses for each one. Now, for something like, fire and EMS, the utilization is less for fewer reasons. But for example, for expenses, we have broken out payroll, overtime, and benefits for the anticipated expenses of the revolving funds, so that not only the budget committee or the select board, but the community can see this is the portion of our operations which we're planning to spend from the revolving fund, which is outside of the operating budget. So I think that gets us closer to the 360 view, Scott. I don't know how we could bridge that gap more in the future.
Clearly the recreation is easiest to figure out. But yeah, if we could just note if there are any changes there. And I was trying to bring it all together in my own mind, so I was looking at that. I went back and looked at the capital reserve funds and the warrant articles, and there's changes there that we haven't really talked about. But I had a quick question just in general about the capital reserve funds. It looks like most of them have gone down in value. Is that this year versus last at this time? Is that clear? Is that not true?
Well, it depends on planned utilization. So the select board has implemented all of the planned utilization so far this year, which means it will go down as we spend the money. It will go down. I guess if your question, we're not necessarily in every capital reserve fund. We're not necessarily just adding funds for one large future expense. The police equipment capital reserve is a good example. So we're trying to build up a balance to fund the transition of our body cameras and tasers, but we have ongoing expenses that we're paying for. So in any one year, we may have more money going out than going in, but what we try to do is make it so the contribution every year is equal. So even if we have years where more money is going out than is going in, maybe the next year more money is going in than going out, and so it's stable. The contributions are stable while the utilization kind of goes like this. So I don't know that there's a lot of insights to be gained by just looking at same time last year there was this much money available, same time this year there's this much available, because that doesn't paint the picture of what the utilization plan was and how that's been implemented.
Yes, and I agree. And I got to because of the police, and they've used some of it and all that. So I started really going down that and looking at it. I guess, is there a way to know what each fund has been used for, and is that somewhere in the binder here?
It's not in the binder, but what I'm hearing, and I could see how this would be useful, is having, in addition to the quarterly capital reserve and trust fund account balances, maybe we can include a copy of the quarterly bill that we send to the trustee of the trust funds, which itemizes how much from each account is being requested and for what purpose.
Right.
And so I think that's something that we could do. Do you concur, Amy?
But we're not talking about the revolving funds anymore. We're talking about the trust funds.
Capital reserves and
Yeah.
trust funds.
Yeah, I can.
I think that already has the level of detail which would be necessary. So this is the packet. The trustee of the trust funds are the custodians of all of the capital reserve and trust funds for the town and the school. And it's their responsibility to make sure that every expenditure that the town or the school makes from those funds is consistent with the purpose for which they were established and follows the appropriate procedure. So operationally, how we do that is every quarter, Amy sends the trustee of trust funds a bill and says, I'm requesting this much money to come from these capital reserve accounts, and itemizes this much from the highway heavy equipment capital reserve. Here's what it's for. Here are the select board minutes because they're the agents to expend, and this much from police equipment. So let's start there. If the budget committee is comfortable with that, we'll start with providing a copy of the quarterly bill.
Yeah.
We find that useful, yeah.
Terrific. Okay. So we'll include a copy with the minutes, the most recent quarterly bill with the minutes, and then we'll plan to provide that going forward in the future.
And for the record, the minutes, Farida has joined us.
Yeah, I put it on here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other question I just had about the financial warrant articles, are we going to talk about those with each department, or are we going to carve out time to talk to them as a whole?
It's up to you all. In the past, we have done a review as we have reviewed the operating budgets.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Okay, let's get started.
I do have one other question on,
Please.
if we're there, on the electrical usage for the town and what we're getting from the solar panels. I believe you emailed us some documents on that.
Yep.
I'm trying to understand what it means. Town hall electric costs, town hall kilowatt usage, kilowatts sold. What's that?
Oh, can we get a microphone for Jim? I will get it up on the screen.
Okay.
And Jim.
Okay.
Jim Anderson, working facility manager,
Perfect time.
budget committee.
Thank you.
Electric costs, I've had 3 years there in your records on the sheet here. The first year was 10,755.14, and then 2024 was 11,157.7. And 25, we've only spent $5,123.21 for electricity for this building for 10 months. We've only gone through 10 months so far.
So these are the costs for this building
Yes,
from 23, 4,
just,
and 5.
just this building.
Just this
Because the
building.
question was about the solar panels on this building and the cost savings.
Right, okay. So it looks like we're doing pretty well then.
Yeah, you see that the kilowatt usage has gone down over the 3 years. And we also sell kilowatts, 23,348 we've sold to Eversource in the 10 months so far this year.
Okay. Good, okay.
And so would you say that the panels, we did make an investment, I think of ARPA funds for those panels. Are we adhering to the payback schedule, you think, that was proposed at that time?
I would propose that we ask the Energy Committee, once we have a full year's worth of data, to give us an updated payoff schedule
Okay.
based on the changing
Okay.
electricity rates. And I would say that we're probably, in the short term, we're probably exceeding expectations because electricity costs have gone up from where they were when the project was approved, and they updated their estimated payoff based on electricity rates at the time. So, yeah, we can ask the Energy Committee to do that. Would you get that question in the minutes?
And would they be able to look at the library too? Because it'd be nice to know and recognize the private donations and how that's offsetting town taxes.
And would it be too early at this point for figures from the library because they just basically opened? Is that safe to say, or?
I think it would be too early for the library. It might be too early. When did this system come online, Jim?
About 3 months ago, I would say.
Oh, this one at the town hall.
Oh, this one, it actually didn't get any credits until the end of '24.
Right. So we're approaching the 1 year mark for this facility. And so I'll figure out when exactly that is so we get a full year's worth of data and ask the Energy Committee to do an update on the payoff schedule.
Be great.
Maybe you still attend the Energy
Yes,
Committee meetings?
yep.
Maybe that's a question you can bring to them.
Yep.
Terrific. Thank you.
23 and 24 were no solar cells.
No
here.
solar
Okay,
cells.
so it just started, you said late 24?
End of '24,
Okay,
and we didn't get any credit right away.
got it.
You know.
Okay, thank you.
One-
I guess our library will get it at the end of next year.
Right. Right.
All right, thank you.
One thing that's affected our energy costs is the transmission costs. The transmission rates have gone up from Eversource like they have for everybody. And it's affected us more than some because our rates are higher than electricity that we use in some cases.
Is the delivery cost a fixed cost, or does it depend how many kilowatt hours they send?
It depends on how many kilowatts they send and also the time of day or high usage times.
For commercial contracts.
Yeah.
The other thing I might say, though, is when we come up to the vote in March, it might be useful to publish, again, the library electrical savings, to that point in time as best as they can analyze it. Because it was a very generous set of donations people gave, and I would like to recognize that. And it would be useful to know at tax time for people to take that into account.
That'll be about 9 months for March.
Yeah. If they didn't operationalize, but yeah.
Terrific.
Okay. That's all I have. Any other questions on old outstanding discussions from prior budget chapters?
Nope.
Hearing none, then review of facilities.
So the questions, we had submitted questions and there was answers. I think we got through any additional follow-up from that, but certainly an opportunity for new questions. Jim's here, and we're looking at Chapter 16.
So what do you're new here. How's it gone for you? Are you
Good.
enjoying your time here? Thank you. Any general observations you have of where we are and where we need to be, or?
We're catching up on some things, but we still have a lot of facilities that have deficiencies and things, the roofs that need to be replaced. We have a fuel system that we fuel the trucks and ambulances, police cars, that we're gonna have to spend some money on to get it up to what the state standards are.
Okay. And is that in the capital plan now, do we know? Capital
Yes.
improvement plan, I assume it's a capital item.
Yep.
Okay,
And that's part of the funding for the Facilities and Grounds Capital Reserve.
right.
Where is that located?
The capital improvements
No, the filling station.
at the highway garage.
Okay.
Have we looked at not having our own units and going with, the local mobile, because they have gas and diesel, correct?
That's a discussion that Mike Nato and I have had just recently about that might be cheaper to just use Irving or some other mobile station or something like that, if we can get a commercial rate.
Great.
Two problems. When the Irving first went in, now there's diesel coming to town. We kicked all these tires as a backup, right? What if we run out of fuel? What if something happens down there? First of all, they don't have an emergency backup generator. Power goes out, can't get fuel. Second, in terms of corporate discount, they didn't even have a mechanism or a program to discount us the gas tax, which we don't have to pay.
Right.
And so that has not been an option. I understand this is the Apple Green, the mobile, I think, right? The Irving
Does
that
not have
doesn't have
diesel.
diesel. I understand they have plans to upgrade their facility and add diesel. We'll certainly kick those tires when the time comes. The additional backup, which we have keys for, are the state fuel pumps. I think the closest state fuel pumps are in Durham, and we have the ability to travel to Durham to fuel up, but operationally, that doesn't make sense. Fortunately, the costs for upgrading our fuel depot aren't tremendous. The state has been not lenient. They've been applying their regulations, but as we slowly make upgrades to the system to satisfy the deficiencies that exist, we'll be able to continue to have that fuel depot. And I think the biggest current next step is getting a concrete pad installed at the depot. And then the next project after that will be the automated
Pumps.
Pumps, which will be great data collection. Right now, we have vending machine keys that turn on the pumps. And there's no way to track how much is the police department using, how much is the school using, how much is the fire department using. And so we'll have, once we're able to upgrade the pumping system to an automated pumping system, we'll have cards. We could even have cards in every cruiser and be able to track that fuel usage. Like I said, with a lot of pride at the last meeting, our fuel usage has gone down tremendously, especially diesel. And those are many thousands of dollars that we are saving every single year because we are optimizing our operations and doing the best we can to limit our fuel use when we can. And so understanding where that's coming from and how that's happening and what the cause and effect of our operations on things like our fuel budget will be helpful. So those are the two big projects.
Yeah, the biggest projects, yeah.
Capacity would be the third one. We'd love to be able to increase capacity down there at the fuel depot, but we have to address the deficiencies first.
The tanks that are in the ground now, or they all meet the new
Above
standard?
ground.
The tanks are above ground in containment.
Above ground, okay.
Yeah, each have their own containment. We did run out of fuel when we had back-to-back storms this last winter, but it's only happened one occasion.
The diesel tanks above ground too?
Yep,
Doesn't gel up?
no, they treat the fuel, and we use power service in the equipment too.
Good questions.
Other questions?
Yeah, just a general question. So if you had money today, what would be your top priority to do?
There's
Look behind you and say, build a new public safety building. Just do yourself a favor.
and the public safety building is 25 years old and needs certainly some work. The roof is going to be, in the near future, is going to need to be done. We've had repairs done on this year to keep it going, leaks, no problem with that. But, sooner or later, 25 years, you're going to get to 30 years and it's going to have something happen. I've talked with the fire chief about various things at the fire station side that we need to work on. We do things with what we have for money. We replaced a septic system in that building, that facility this year. About unanticipated, about $20,000 for that. The police side, they certainly need work on different things or expansion. We've done some work on that side to about $6,000 or $7,000, I think it was this year, to change things around a little bit to help them. Of course, it's just a Band-Aid, but trying to get by with what we have. So I
Flow down into your budget now, all this costs, or does it get a portion to the department?
that building's all my budget for those things. Certainly, an addition to that building would be a great thing, but we're talking millions of dollars, And I know there's some discussion about a separate building. So we're not at the point yet to say, yeah, we're going to put on an addition of $5 million or a new building for $6 or $7 million. I don't know what it'll cost, but I'm just throwing out figures. But, we don't know that yet, as I understand.
Let's just take a look at the roof. When do you think the roof might have real problems? I think I saw that in here somewhere.
In my capital improvements plan, it's 2027. Certainly, if we don't need to do it then, we can put it off. But everything you put off costs you more money too. And certainly the $150,000, that was back in '24 that I got that verbal estimate. It wasn't a written estimate. And certainly we can go that path and get another estimate, but if you put it a year down the road, you got to get another estimate because things have changed. Things have gone up.
The roof estimate was 124,000?
150,
150.
yeah.
So I guess the question is from the capital improvement plan, we're planning to do that year, and how in 2027, you said?
2027, yeah.
Yeah.
They have
We-
to do it next year.
I believe we'll probably have to come back in 2027 budget year and ask for more money. But
Because it'll be at that point, we'll have the question of, what are we doing with the whole public safety building, right? And the
Well,
roof may
and-
force that discussion.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to expect that there will be some sort of warrant article in 2026 to help guide the future decision-making on the public safety space needs in general. And certainly, based on the outcome of that warrant article and the outcome of any investigation that's done after that, space needs analysis, feasibility studies, whatever, that if it seems like a proposal will be going in 2027 that doesn't keep us at that public safety building, then we would defer that project. So we'll have more information, but I think, and Jim made this point just a moment ago, it's important, especially when you have various paths forward, it's important that you're planning for possible alternatives, and you can always pivot, right? So we put the project in the CIP. We need to replace the roof. We can't ignore that. We can't just say, oh, we're going to ignore that until we figure out what we're going to do with the building. No, we'll plan on that. And if we're going to renovate the building, we can roll that into the renovation. If we're going to build a separate fire station and police station, then we'll defer that project and invest those dollars into new facilities. But those are all unanswered questions at this point.
Okay.
Mona, you have questions?
Yes, on the last line item, general government buildings, equipment, it says this line is for equipment purchase, replacement of electronics equipment, things like that. I noticed it went down significantly, which is great, but I'm wondering what you expect to purchase in the upcoming year.
that, I believe, was equipment and software for the IT. Correct, Connor?
Yeah, so the reason it went down is because we increased it last year to buy a mower. The amount that's budgeted in there is for our annual upgrades to systems, servers and things like that. So we try to keep that budget level. And so we increased it last year because we bought the mower out of there. But good question.
So all facilities are getting now, including the library, coming underneath.
Not the library. So the thing about the library is what the state statute says from a budgeting standpoint is that the select board have a responsibility, have a duty to propose a budget necessary to fund the operations of the library. And so there is value in having all of the costs associated with operating the library that you can easily delineate
Gotcha.
under the library budget. So this is what it costs to operate the library. Now, things like snow plowing, things like facility support, things like grounds maintenance, those aren't in the library budget because they're just overhead costs. We have those positions and we provide those services, kind of to the library. And we've talked about this before, but it's not uncommon in the state of New Hampshire to have a library that operates almost entirely independently from the town, where following an affirmative vote at town meeting, the library trustees send a request to the select board for their entire budget. And the library just manages that budget, spends it how they see fit, and doesn't give any back. And so the library in Barrington is much more like a department of the town and operates much more like a department of the town. But it's still important that where we can, we delineate what the library, what it costs to fund the library because of the statutory framework and quite frankly, the authority that the library trustees really have.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other question on I guess this goes to the roof replacement. The capital reserve funding contribution request is looking for $80,000. Is
Yep.
that correct? And we have $80,000 in there now?
$80,000 that's in there now. Currently, 35 of that was for the concrete pad for the fuel depot.
Okay.
We haven't done that yet. We've had a discussion between Mike and Mark and I about, what we're going to find there when we do work on that.
Okay.
So-
This amount, this 80,000 that's in there now is not just for the roof?
Not for the roof, no.
Okay, so that's got, okay. That makes sense.
Part of the reason, but not all.
Okay. Anybody else?
Terrific.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, Jim.
You're welcome.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet
Chief Joy?
Yeah, so let's do cemeteries real quick. I don't expect there'll be any questions, but just so we can close the book. On your way up, Rick's not here, so. No. Are there any questions on cemeteries budget? Okay, the reduction because they did the project, fantastic. We have Police Chief George Joy, Deputy Police Chief Rick Campbell. Remind me where we were with questions
No
beforehand,
questions
Amy?
for the police either,
Perfect.
originally.
So there's every opportunity for questions now. Please turn up the heat, put them on the spot. Ask the hard-hitting questions we know they need.
So what is the crime rate in Barrington?
Which crime specifically, what do you want?
Overall?
Yeah, I don't have crime stats for you. I
Yeah.
certainly didn't come prepared with crime stats for a budget presentation. We can get those together.
Do we have, okay, so hard crimes.
We've seen a decrease in motor vehicle work, and last year we saw a decrease in arrests. I don't have a good explanation why that is. I can attribute some of it to manpower. I can also attribute some of it to just less violent crime in general. Drunk stayed about the same, give or take. But we're trending downward a little bit. I don't know for how long. We are also tied to the economy for crimes. As the economy dips, you'll see crime go back up.
Like petty thefts or,
Petty thefts, vandalisms, domestics, because people get stressed out and they take that out on each other, unfortunately. You'll also see anything tied to drinking go back up, DUIs, disorderlies, that kind of stuff. Good, dangerous stuff for us.
Chief, you have radar unit replacement, I think, in here. Are these all radars or lidars?
Radars.
Radars.
Yeah, we have one LiDAR unit.
Okay.
We have one handheld LiDAR unit that doesn't get enough use for me to justify more of them, but all of our online patrol cars have radars in them. I have 3 that currently need to be replaced that are old. Mine, yeah, 3 that are the old models. As we've been replacing cars, we've been replacing them as well. I did secure a grant this year through Highway Safety that'll pay 3/4.
I remember the old X-band that used to hang out the window, but.
I go back to the Pro 1000
Is
DS, but
LiDAR more effective? Because that came after my time too.
LiDAR is more effective. It's handheld.
Okay.
When we had the motorcycle guys really liked the LiDAR because they could tuck it in the saddlebag.
Okay.
We had a mobile radar unit on the motorcycle. Wasn't fantastic. Those Eagles weren't great. And it's, again, I don't necessarily want a motor unit looking down at the radar while he's tooling around either.
Is that device more expensive than the regular radar?
I haven't priced them out. Wow.
Okay.
I have not priced them out in a bit. My guess is yes, because they're handheld, but I have not priced them.
But your opinion suggestion is to go with the radar units
Yeah.
rather than.
Tried and true,
Okay, thank
yes.
you. Anybody else?
Yeah, when I first started on this group some years ago now, the police, I think, were in a very difficult situation. I think there was worry just even about officer safety from the perspective of not having enough backup for officers.
We're still there.
We're still there?
We are.
So let's talk about that. What do you see and what more does it take to get there? What has the journey been for anybody who's
So
trying to
we
listen
have
in? 2
2 currently in the academy. I'm going to get rid of this for now. We have 2 currently in the academy. That is I'm going to use the term extra spot, even though with the extra, we're still woefully understaffed. The extra that started in July and Donnie Morse's replacement. So those are the 2 that are in the academy currently. That would have got us back up to staff. And then Officer Resnicek left a month and a half ago. So now I'm back down 1 again. I'm working on replacing him. So I'm hoping that we go into the new year, quote unquote, staffed. With the addition of the half position this July, which will be fully funded next year, I anticipate that that's going to get me to double coverage on most nights. I may still have a few hours here and there where I'm not double coverage, but I'm still going to be playing games on a couple of other shifts to ensure that I have the coverage on nights that I need. Ultimately, where I would like to be, my goal is to have double and a supervisor on all my night shifts. That's where we should be. I should have a patrol sergeant and my units out as well. Day shift, that's not as big a deal. We should have the coverage, but we have supervisors out during the day. Deputy chief and I are here. If I can get Connor to let me work night shift entirely for the rest of my career, certainly we could have a chief of police out at night too. But that's where we should be. We've got good quality individuals in our neighboring communities that we can rely on for mutual aid when they're available, but they go in at night too. Lee is 24-hour coverage. The town of Stratford is not. The town of Stratford goes in multiple hours before what I consider the needed hours. Northwood, I don't know where Northwood is right now. I've kind of lost track of what they were doing. They were running some 24-hour shifts when they were low manned, but I'm not gonna rely on a town for mutual aid that is woefully understaffed themselves and running 24-hour shifts. And if you're running 24-hour shifts, that in my mind means that those units are sleeping too. They'd have to be. You can't possibly work 24 hours straight.
What kind of relationship do you guys have with, for example, the neighboring?
Fantastic. Our
There's a
relation,
need for more backup, whatever.
can't
like-
count on it. We have a great relationship with the city of Rochester. Chief Boudreau and I are close friends. I know the guys over there. I trust them. I can't remember the last time that Rochester was able to respond mutual aid because Rochester has their own problems to deal with. The same goes for the city of Dover. The city of Dover, great group of guys, good people. You can't count on them to
But you
come
can.
because they've
Okay,
got their
so-
own stuff going on and they're understaffed as well, as is Rochester. The town of Stratford, we've always had a very, very, very close relationship with the town of Stratford. You can't rely on them to come because we all staff to meet our needs. And I live in the town of Stratford, and I stood up at town meeting in the town of Stratford several years ago when I heard the same things coming out of the people at town meeting. Well, we can always rely on Barrington. No, you can't. I staff for the town of Barrington. We staff
so-
for our needs. You can't count on us to come because when you need me to come, we may have a domestic on the other side of town. We may have a 2-car pileup on Route 125. So that relationship is there, and Stratford does come down to help us, and we do go to Stratford to help them out, but we can't rely on that coverage. We need to staff appropriately to our town so that our needs are met for our residents. So that when a domestic rolls in at 1 o'clock in the morning, best practice is not to go to that call alone. Now, Bill knows, just like I know, that we do. That's wrong. That is not best practice. It goes against everything we've been trained to do. But in an emergency situation, we are going to go by ourselves. That is wrong. We are putting our cops in danger by doing that. We need to have those 2 folks out when that call comes in so that they can roll to that together and we can be safe. Because I know you don't want me waiting for Lee to go to Berry River Road to go to a domestic. Nobody wants that. I'm not going to sit at the end of Green Hill Road and wait for 10 minutes for my backup officer to arrive. That's unacceptable by any standard. But I also want my officer to roll in there safe.
Troop A have a midnight car?
Troop A does have a midnight car, but now you have the town, and again, we've got 95 and everything else to deal with. We have the towns of New Durham and Middleton in northern Stratford County that right now Middleton has a chief of police. I think they may have some part-timers working. The town of New Durham has a chief of police and 1 full-timer. So they're spending an inordinate amount of time up there and in our neighboring town of Madbury covering calls too. So to rely on a state police unit to come and back us up, yeah, again, Troop A is coming. They're coming to help us out when we need them, but we can't rely on that because they could be 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away.
That
Yeah.
makes this service very crucial, right? So it's like,
Yeah,
it's not like,
Is the midnight car the 95 car too? Or are they?
I don't know that we have a county car back yet.
Okay.
I haven't talked to Lieutenant Ronke about the coverage because I know, again, he's dealing with a lot of, he's dealing with a lot of other factors. Madbury alone keeps them busy enough, let alone northern Stratford County. What I can tell you is I witnessed call delays in northern Stratford County when we were helping out in the town of New Durham. Those delays were hours long. From a personal anecdotal story, I signed on to cover a shift in the town of New Durham. I signed on at 7 a.m. They had a pending alarm call that was over 3 hours old at the end of North Shore Road, where a guy had somebody on camera on the property. And I was the first unit that made it to that residence to check it 3 hours deep. I met the nice
Back to
young lady in
Scott's
the state
point.
police car, but
Not putting words in his mouth, but I think what Scott asked is what should the community expect? What is the plan to continue improving officer safety, improving the level of service for the community as we look, obviously not this budget
Right.
year, because there isn't a proposed
Correct.
increase in staffing.
we've put the staffing plan together, and you've heard me say it, I don't know how many times now. We got our position this year. I'm not gonna come to you 2 years in a row. A, that's just, it's not fair and there are other needs. B, this year we've talked about is gonna be a very tough budget year in general. So it'd been inappropriate for me to come to you 2 years in a row and ask for staff. My guess is you're gonna see me back in front of you next year with the same staffing proposal that I've had for several years now, showing the deficiencies in staffing, and we're gonna be asking for another one coming up.
I just wonder, what is the select board's view on this? I would have thought there would be community support for police. Is there any way to get it onto the ballot? I know it's hard to do another warrant article or something, but how would we measure community support for that?
Yeah, we don't have a great mechanism in place already to measure community support outside of a town meeting. I'll say that, when we went into 2024 with the proposal for the $150,000 for the engineering and feasibility study for the public safety building, the perception was this community is very supportive of police and fire, has consistently been very supportive of police and fire. That is expected to pass. That was the only article that failed. Now, we can all Monday morning quarterback it and say, well, it failed because of this, it failed because of that. But that's just an illustrative example of it's hard to know. And so to your point about, you will remember that for the 2025 budget proposal, the budget committee initially recommended to the select board separating out the police officer as a separate warrant article. And the select board deliberated on that spiritedly, asked the chief to weigh in. And I think that they arrived at the most reasonable conclusion in including it in the budget and not building expectation that every time we're adding a staff member, it's a separate warrant article and it's an up or down vote from the community as a whole and all the rest. That seemed to make sense. So I would expect for a lot of the same reasons, the select board wouldn't want to look at putting an officer out on a separate warrant article now. Now, maybe your question is if we need to get to, the reasonable number to get to is 15, right? Why not add 3? Right? Kind of losing track because we do 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And so current staffing versus full staff. But the question is, why not put a warrant article together and say we want to hire 3 police officers? We want the money to hire 3 police officers and build that into the budget the next year. And that hasn't been talked about before. I don't know. I think there's support in the community. I think there's support from the select board. But I think to the chief's point, and the chiefs had been a pretty good barometer of this in the past, trying to meter the requests to make sure that we maintain that support is important. And, making incremental change and having incremental growth. And even just in the time that I've been here, being able to see the police department has always been a tremendously professional police department. But it's remarkable to see when positions and staff have a little bit of breathing room and have the ability to focus on the really strong policing and investigation and detective work, to be able to do that and not feel all the pressure from, being understaffed or, having vacant positions or having shifts go unfilled and circumstances being unsafe. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. And I think the select board has generally favored having incremental growth, continuing to make progress to get where we need to be.
the other issue we need to look at this year as well, and again, as much as I want to step forward, I also have to look at taking care of our own staff in-house so we don't hemorrhage individuals. And you've heard me preach about that before. This year, we're up for negotiations. I would much, much rather have the public focus on taking care of my people along with the Board of Selectmen through the negotiations process and voting our contract through, rather than throwing a contract number at them and another position. Again, that's just me playing the numbers in my head and knowing what voters are going into the booth with this year. It doesn't do me any good to add a position if we don't take care of the individuals that are already in our house and not pay them appropriately so they're walking out the door. Because then I'm just going to be filling that position as a revolving door. So again, we've talked about it. Yeah, we need to increase staff, but at the same time, I need to moderate that on years where we're coming into contract negotiations so that the town is focused where I need them focused.
Yeah, so we've been at this for so long now.
And we've made tremendous steps thanks
have
to
made
you folks in the
progress,
board.
right.
We
No,
absolutely
And I
have.
don't mean to minimize that.
Yeah, no,
but
we've done very well.
I almost wonder if we need to have more of a holistic plan to target and educate people on both about the public safety building and the police, because there's going to be big ticket items coming on, and I don't think we can prevent that. And
Nope,
so
you're right.
this is not going to get any easier to ask for more police, and yet I feel it's important to have the right amount of police, and I would encourage the select board to consider that. And
I would also say that the police are a victim of their own success because things are good.
Right.
People see that. They're like,
Well, and there's the catch 22, right?
Yep.
I mean, we've never been the town of Barrington, back to Chief Conway. We've never been media hounds. You don't see a lot from us in the paper. We caught a bank robber in 3 hours a couple weeks ago. Shame on me for not doing a press release. And actually, I need to do one.
Maybe.
Sorry, Sergeant's
maybe
been
we
on me
should
about that.
have.
We caught a bank robber in 3 hours. My staff is very competent and very capable. Are we a victim of our own? Yeah, we are. We do a good job. If you're not hearing from us, it means I'm doing my job. It means I'm keeping a lid on things. We have a speeding problem in town. That is very clear. If you look at any of the town Facebook pages, we have a speeding problem in town. That's not a result of us not being out on the roads. You see blue lights constantly on the roads in the town of Barrington. But if we're doing X, handling Y calls, serving paperwork, those are officers that aren't out being proactive and stopping cars at the same time. Today I had a unit and a half out. I just say that from an hour standpoint. I can't expect Officer Barry to be stopping cars while he's shagging calls too, while the deputy chief and I are in negotiation meetings and taking us out of the equation. You know, you count us, we count in those functions. Both of us are working administrators. I am handling calls. I am stopping cars. I actually have more motor vehicle stops than some of our patrolmen, and that's not saying anything against them. You have a chief that still works. The deputy chief is the same way. We're out there doing all the functions and our administrative functions. But if we build the patrol schedule, and we have, that incorporates us helping out with calls and duties, and we're in a mandatory meeting with Tia McIver and Chair Lady Hardikoff doing negotiations, you've sucked two of us off the road, and now I'm leaving a guy out there, not in a lurch, but shorthanded because we're doing administrative functions, which is what y'all pay me to do. We need to get there, but we need to get there steps at a time while ensuring that the people aren't leaving us too.
That's why I asked what is your relationship with neighboring, because are they, available to support? But if they are not, we really need to build our
Yeah,
own.
well, they are, and I'm going to use Lee, right? So we know the Lee traffic circle.
Yeah, but-
Chief Dronsfield has himself and maybe another unit on at any given time on a day shift, but they're also running back and forth with the circle, having accidents and everything else. So yeah, we use them and we rely on each other, and we're there when we need it, but we can't rely on them.
But we need to build our own.
Correct. We need to defend our own house and use them when we need to use them.
I mean, I guess I would personally, I don't know how everyone else feels, like I would like to impress upon the select board to be more aggressive in hiring, trying to rectify this, and I don't know what that means. I mean, I think there's a good case to be made here, and you can look through this all documents, and you can see the effort everybody's trying to make to save money.
But this
But-
is not one area that you want to save.
Yeah, it's almost like we put in one from recreation to park and recreation. We've got facilities people, and yet we're still struggling with police, which to me should be among the base needs that we should be solving.
But we just added one, right?
July,
So,
yeah.
July, so gentle pressure relentlessly applied. Next year,
I like that.
Relentlessly applied.
I like that.
But I do-
But I think that summarizes the select board's perspective very well. And the select board has said before too, that we have trust in our police chief that if the police, what the police chief's asking for, we have supported that. I mean, this doesn't just apply to Chief Joy, but in all the time that I've been here, the select board has never denied a request from the police department to move the ball forward on something. And I think that's a mutual respect and understanding of knowing when and how to ask, and knowing that they're asking, they need it. And so that's a tough relationship of mutual respect to build and maintain. But I think we're still in that sweet spot.
And I support your method of taking care of your people rather than saying, hey, I need 3 more people. Because if you don't take care of your people, you're going to need six more people. So I think that's a wise path to go down.
Had some.
I think you should be, doing the press releases so that public does know that things are
No,
happening. and
you're
they're being-
absolutely right.
And taken care of.
That's a holdover to the old school type stuff, and that's,
Got to toot your own horn.
I know my own faults too.
Yeah, because I'm a resident, I said, oh my God, it's such a great, safe
I
area.
know, and you don't see,
I mean,
it's like, oh, this,
seriously, like, that's why I asked, because I always think that it's so safe.
And it is. This is still a very good town with a low rate. We're not Rochester. And again, if that means we're doing our job appropriately with that perception.
are the police logs available to the public, like other towns have them available or not?
The police logs are available to the public. We don't do a blotter per se. We used to do a blotter, didn't get a lot of attention. And it's, quite frankly, it's extra work for some.
I
A
know.
lot of your neighboring agencies have an individual that's dedicated
To that.
specifically to that.
I don't
Well,
know who used to
the
do the city
police
of
logs-
Rochester's. They did a fantastic job. They were hilarious.
But the first link on the police department webpage is the police logs. And I mean, the most recent update was the week of 10/20 to 10/26.
Okay.
So I mean, that,
It's the basics.
It's available there, but we're not also tooting our horn.
Right. You hear when things go really bad.
Right, and I'd rather hear that things are going well as well.
Right, anybody else?
That's it.
great.
Oh,
And the
just
capital
one-
reserve,
Sorry, you reduced the police equipment capital reserve by 20,000.
Yeah, so I have submitted a replacement schedule, which I'm assuming y'all got. The biggest 2 expenses, one is coming due this year. We're actually signing the contract in November, which is the TASER contract. And I say TASER contract because we've been in the past, since we put them in, body worn cameras are in one spot and tasers have been in another location in the budget. What we're doing going forward is we're moving everything together into one contract.
Right.
You'll note the major change to the contract line there. That is a staggered contract, big hit this year on that signature line. And going forward, we are using the capital reserve and budgetary money in stepped increases until that will all become a full budgetary line by the end of this contract. So hopefully by the end of this contract, we'll have that line built up to where it should be going forward, because that is now when this was in place, they used the different methods, and I get why they did it. Factually, the town needs to consider body worn cameras and tasers a necessity.
And it's the same company.
And it's the same
Excellent.
company now.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
those should just be combined into one, and that should become a line item under the contract line going forward. At no point, even after I retire, after the deputy chief retires, should any of you or the Board of Selectmen ever consider body worn cameras or tasers to be a throwable item. Those are necessary going forward in the future, period, end of discussion. Yeah, you can save a lot of money by getting rid of body worn cameras. You sure can. And you can open yourself up to a whole lot of liability now too. The state of New Hampshire has decided that body worn cameras are best practice. The state of New Hampshire will never mandate body worn cameras because they don't want to throw the money at us to deal with them. But when you have the governor and his council saying this is our best practice, when the LEAC commission says this is best practice, you're locked into them. We've now had them for several years. They've saved us tremendous problems. They've saved us from serious complaints, which were completely egregious and unfounded. We should never be without body worn cameras.
and we were a trendsetter. I mean, Barrington
We were
was
one of
on
the first
on
smaller
early
towns,
wave.
yes.
But I want to underline what George said at the beginning, which is we had the separate contracts. There was a financial benefit to us to make balloon payments up front as we were updating our equipment to get to the point now where we're syncing the two up, and we'll make a balloon payment and then we'll have the annual contract maintenance. And so that whole system and having the capital reserve and building up an account balance has given us that flexibility and the incremental improvements to the operating budget. So by the time this contract's done, we'll have the operating budget at a level, an appropriate level to maintain that contract moving forward. Obviously, it'll have to go up because everything gets more expensive. But then the plan is that will all move out of the capital reserve. We use the capital reserve as a tool to build up a balance, to make a balloon payment and sync the contracts up. And it's tremendous planning, absolutely tremendous planning by the police chief to get us to a point where we can have the operating expense, but not see a very large one-year increase in the operating budget.
So moving forward, how much will that contract be once everything's purchased?
I thought I had it in my materials, but I can pull that for you.
ICK was body worn cameras, 184, 102.
Yes, that sounds right to me.
Sounds correct.
But that's going to be an annual
But that's the
cost?
balloon payment.
That's the
That's
balloon
the balloon
payment.
payment, but-
The payment goes down after this year's first payment, which is the most expensive one. It goes down. So this year, the contribution out of the capital reserve is a little bit higher. The next year, it'll be a little bit lower. The following year, it'll be a little bit lower.
As we shift that
as we
cost
shift it
to
down.
the operating budget. So it sounds like a question is, let's have.
We do, and I have those numbers.
Okay.
I thought I included
don't
them in my
remember
budget
seeing it.
material.
I've seen it separately.
Yeah.
But I don't remember seeing it in the budget materials. So we'll get those.
I'm happy to email that to you. I have it all laid out.
Okay, that'd be great.
And the other major expense, almost as bad as Axon, is replacement for these guys. Several years ago, we went to the mobile data terminals. We were very, very lucky that Deputy Chief Brooks and Detective Sergeant Barber were able to locate a DOJ grant, which took care of almost the entire project. The downside of purchasing 12 MDTs is that all those MDTs are going to go defunct at essentially the same time. I'm not confident that there's going to be a DOJ grant available when we go to replace MDTs. So we're replacing these as per the replacement schedule as we go. We haven't had, knock on wood, we haven't had any that have died yet. They've been a very good product, but that's going to be our other big hit to the tune of probably $100,000 by the time it's said and done.
And we'll use the capital reserve to
Yep.
save for those funds.
We've got handguns out of the way this year. I'm still waiting on those to hit, Amy. I know it's still pending. Those hopefully will be landing this week or early next week. They're late. Thank you, SIG, for blowing up guns to slow Glock down. So the Glock should be hitting soon. That means handguns are off the table for the foreseeable future. We've taken care of that from a replacement standpoint. I've also done half a dozen. I'm waiting to finalize half a dozen rifles. So from a weapon system standpoint, we're in really good shape. The MDTs are on the horizon. Portable radios, we've been really good. I had projected doing one, two just died on us completely. So I have to pull some money, do some radios, and then again, our radios are getting older. We need to be replacing those 2 a year. Those are not cheap, $8,800 for the pair. And the mobile radios in our cruisers are about twice that much.
Terrific.
Do we
Gentlemen,
want to talk building at all?
let's wait until I let them know that there's going to be a presentation on the 17th, and then we talk about that more.
Thank you very much.
That's all we have in front of the court. May we
Thank
be
you.
excused? Chief, it's all yours.
Thank you for keeping us safe.
Thank you.
Amen to that. I think we've reached our quota for meetings today.
He looks thrilled to be here.
So, there were no questions ahead of time? Is my memory serving me? Oh, there was an updated replacement schedule.
Yes.
Did I see that for fire trucks?
It was for fire equipment.
equipment.
Equipment, yeah, I think,
The one I provided was slightly outdated, had years past, which I didn't think made a whole lot of sense to the committee, so I updated it to make a little bit more sense.
John Janelle, everybody?
nope.
Scott Shepherd, Mona,
to
Farida,
meet you.
Nice to
Bill?
meet everyone.
Additional questions?
I have one. Under fire vehicle maintenance, it went up 48%. And do those have to have safety inspections moving forward, or is that, or those?
I have spoken with Connor about that, moving forward. As long as I'm chief, I intend that we still keep our equipment at the same standard that we currently do, regardless of the state of New Hampshire's stance on inspections. The other reason basing on the equipment line, I took a 5-year average of what we've been spending on fire equipment, and that's the number that I used. As you can see, we have an aging fleet. Fire equipment repairs are extremely expensive. Like this year, we were supposed to replace tires on engine 2. That was going to be probably $4,000 just for tires. Our utility truck didn't pass inspection. That was like another $2,000. So that and there's other things that we've kind of pushed off. But hopefully next year we can play catch up with those additional funds.
One thing to point out, and this is, this is just the differences you get sometimes, but Chief Walker, the way he managed the budget, especially with something like vehicle maintenance, is he would overspend that line and underspend another line and not ask for an increase. Kind of with the understanding that, okay, well, I'll be able to cover the expenses. If I have to go off, go a year without buying protective equipment, I can get by without that. I'd rather do that than increase the budget to what is necessary. So to some extent, not to his own fault, but, Chief Janelle has inherited some budget lines which are a little bit out of whack. This is one of them. Not a huge change, right, in dollar amount, but it's important. And one of the things him and I have talked about, it's important that we're budgeting appropriately for what is necessary to operate. Back to the first question real quick, the retired road agent who is now full-time project manager and mechanic, the plan is that as the public works director gets up to speed, Mark will be able to stand up an in-house maintenance program for the town and be able to do inspections and some work. Truth be told, he won't be doing a lot of work on the apparatus. Better off having that with specialized training. But all of the cruisers, the utility vehicle, anything that he can work on, the plan is to be able to transition as much of that in-house as possible and certainly save what we can on vehicle maintenance. But it'll be a year or two before we see that implemented.
With this, in my view, disastrous lack of inspections for vehicles, are the town vehicles still required to be inspected by the state under the inspection requirements?
I have not heard.
No.
So you may not need to do a state inspection, but you're going to do one anyway.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
I have a question about the protective gear. I was just wondering if this is made in the States or overseas where it might be impacted by tariffs?
Some of the materials might come in from overseas,
Okay.
But the PPE itself is actually manufactured in Pittsfield, New Hampshire.
Okay.
But there is an increase, so that's why, so I think this year Globe estimated like 5%, which is reflected in that line, along with some increases in the uniforms as well.
So it looked like you added to the fire truck capital reserve warrant article, $50,000 extra. Is that true? Is that my understanding?
I believe I left it, I don't believe I increased.
No, it's 100.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
I
it was
did not
100 last
increase.
year?
Yep. Yeah, that's the same. I used the same amounts from last year.
So to that point, in chapter 24, a helpful document, it's not the first page, it's not the second page, but the third page, and it's dreadfully small. You know, there was a year where we included magnifying glasses with the budget binders. Weren't you on the budget committee?
Oh,
then?
yeah.
We need to
We have
revisit
some.
that. We still
I
have
think we
some.
have a whole box of them.
So this, what this page shows is going back to 2019, the capital reserve request contribution, if it passed and by what percent, from 2019 to 2025. So fire truck capital reserve is the third one down. It was 50 in 19, 55 in 20, 80 in 21, 80 in 22. $10 in 23.
And 24.
24 says 100 to me,
Yeah.
25 says 50.
25 says 50. So I wonder if the 50 is what, remember with the budget committee reduced all of the capital reserve requests? So it must have been reduced to 50. It was requested at 100, but reduced to 50 for what went to the vote.
So,
Is that 10,000 in 2023 real?
no, I don't
It
think
doesn't
it is.
make
I
sense.
think it's a
It does.
typo.
Well, let's check.
So I
That's
guess the
rescue,
question
though,
comes
isn't it?
down,
It's usually rescue, but that is
Should
in
we
the
have-
fire truck.
were we wrong or were we right to have reduced the,
Tell them. Tell them. Starts with a W, ends with a wrong.
Yeah, I'd say we were wrong. I mean, a fire truck nowadays is $1 million. Nothing we can do about that. That's the industry cost. A lot of things that go into that. So as Chief Walker mentioned last year, we're looking at doing some refurbing to try to buy us a little bit more time on making that next big purchase. But in my opinion, that line's going to have to be increased down the road.
Or we're going to bond.
which is probably more likely, or some combination.
Or, yes.
And this is a problem, right, as a budget committee member, how do you, and we really tried to ask the question and, tried to be sure we weren't hurting future, needs. And it is, I'm still concerned about. So I don't know. There's not much more we can say about that, I guess.
I mean, normally bonds are usually used, yes, for some items, but for actually to bring more money in, for
Right, but
investments.
at some point, we need to make a decision and stick to it, right? And either be funding this to the level we need to, or to say we're gonna bond and not save money because it's not worthwhile to me. And I don't know, I guess, is that gonna be into the purview of the capital
I would
working
expect so.
group? Yeah,
I would expect so. What the cities do is the cities with like a CIP, for example, because their council has bonding authority, right? They will identify what the capital needs are for a year, bond that amount, and draw what they need, spend the money. And so, we get this CIP funding committee, separate CIP committee stood up and get this underway. An option for consideration on the table is to say, okay, this is what we have available in capital reserves as cash on hand. We leverage that to the maximum extent possible. In some cases, maybe we use that cash and check off pieces, but we could also look and say, okay, in this year, we need this much money and we have this portion of capital reserve, we're going to ask to bond this amount. And we'd be asking town meeting, not the residents, or not the select board, and then draw down what we need to fund the projects. It wouldn't have to be just a bond for a fire truck in this year. It could be a bond for a fire truck, a six-wheel dump truck, and the work on Tall End Road. And so those are all things that we could consider. Say, let's sequence our capital reserve so there's an equal amount of need each year, and find a funding mechanism for that. I mean, one of my first recommendations as a select board when I came here, why do we have so many separate capital reserve requests? Have one article to appropriate $988,000 to go into all these capital reserves. But that's the tradition in Barrington. The tradition is the residents having operational control to say, I want to contribute to this capital reserve and not to this one. Now, this document shows you, they generally vote to contribute to all of them, but it feels good to be able to,
Control.
you know? And so that hasn't been a tradition we have been able to upend. And it's more just voter fatigue, you know? It would cut our warrant in half.
Yeah.
It was.
But if there's a future that says we're going to ask to either appropriate cash as taxes or bond X amount to cover the capital needs for that year, that upcoming year, and try to stabilize that so it doesn't go like this, then it would be consolidated at that point. So maybe that's something that can come out of the work of that group. That group, which may be this group. Time will tell, right? And clerical error. Fire truck 2023 was $100,000.
Yeah, that's what we count.
Can you provide us an update on regionalization, what your perspective is and where we are and what might or might not happen?
Sure. So we have a regionalization working group with Lee, Madbury, Barrington. We've been meeting biweekly, trying to develop a long-term, short-term plan. On November 10th, we're going to have a all-board meeting with the 3 communities. You're all welcome to attend. The public is welcome to attend as well. And we're going to, just produce a brief presentation of where we're at and recommendations on moving forward. Some things that we're currently doing, we're working with Madbury right now on assisting them over the next 6 months. It's going to be a trial on EMS and a part of Madbury that's close to Barrington, and along with that, some automatic for like motor vehicle accidents, that sort of thing. We're also working with the town of Lee on doing some stuff on the Route 4 end. So it's a lot of just trial and error right now on what works and what doesn't work. In the budget, you'll see there's a few things in the contracts line like Prodigy. That's an EMS training program that the other communities use. I Am Responding is another software package that all 3 communities, Barrington will start using it next month. That allows us to see which communities have for resources on that day. So, I can look and say, Lee has an EMT and a firefighter, and what apparatus is available? Are they out on calls? We can share water source locations, pre-plans, all that sort of stuff. So we're building that regionalization. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, my best guess, it's well over 5 years. The term fire district always gets thrown out. That's a long-term goal. Are we going to get there? I hope so. But there's a lot of challenges ahead of us to get there. But there's also a lot of stuff that the 3 communities can do now to help each other out. So we're working to get there.
So what exactly are we doing with Lee and Madbury?
So Madbury's a smaller community. They get their EMS service from McGregor, which is on the campus of UNH. So there's parts of Madbury that Barrington can service a lot quicker. So for any Delta or Echo level calls, much higher level EMS call, Barrington will be started automatically to pretty much the Route 9 portion of Madbury and all those associated roads off that. And then on the Route 4 side, Barrington and McGregor will both be responding to that section as well. So we're actually getting kind of like double service on those 2 areas. And then with Lee Fire, because Lee Fire doesn't do EMS, we're going to be automatic more going to Lee for certain parts of the town for certain incidents. So say fire alarm activations, commercial buildings, extensive motor vehicle accidents, rescues, that sort of thing, Barrington will be automatic. And likewise, those communities coming to Barrington as well.
So this is all EMS?
EMS and fire both.
Okay.
Yep.
And so do we get repaid for those services or how does that?
So if we go to Madbury and we do the transport, that'll be a billable call for the town of Barrington.
Will we at least break even in that cost in terms of time, manpower, miles?
I would believe so. Yeah.
We should
The-
probably check.
Well, that's why we're doing this for 6 months as a trial to see.
Right, but we should be able to predict what the rate we're charging is gonna, At
The
least cover it.
the challenge becomes billing and collections.
Mm-hmm.
So the town of Barrington's policy for ambulance billing is we send 3 bills. End of process. Nothing goes to collections. There are no efforts beyond 3 bills by our billing company to collect on ambulance bills. There are circumstances where an insurance company will pay the covered individual for the ambulance ride with the expectation, understanding that they're paying the bill to the town, right? And the covered individual makes money because they don't pay the town. And then we send the 3 bills and that's the end of it. Then we write it off. So that even on a call by call basis, our rates are high enough to break even. Our rates are appropriate to break even, unless or until the state legislature neuters our ability to set ambulance rates, which was a big topic of legislation this last cycle. Our rates are appropriate. Our collections is a different story, and we don't, we certainly could, through the trial period, have our ambulance billing company track that data for us separately so we can get calls from when we go over there.
How much are we?
I don't.
I don't have the number right now, but
It's, from a financial accounting standpoint, we write off the balance owed after 90 days. Now, we can still collect it 90 days?
yeah, we can collect anything.
Yeah, we can collect anything. But we write off in terms of carrying the receivable on our books after 90 days.
but it doesn't make sense for us to do any of this if we're not gonna break even, to me, period. And so if we're doing the 6 months, we should make sure that we are earning the money back that's gonna take care of the wear and tear, whatever that is, per mile rate.
I think the way that this is, so a couple of things. I think we have to zoom farther out than that, even for the dollars and cents conversation. So the pressures on fire and EMS are significant, and in staffing and availability and calls for service, et cetera. And it's unsustainable. It's not sustainable for the community of Barrington to handle into the future on our own, which makes it less sustainable for a community like Lee or Madbury to handle on their own into the future. And so I feel very proud that we're doing the work to explore what it would take to find a sustainable solution. You heard from the chief that isn't going to be there's no quick fix for that, we are blazing uncharted territory to explore what it would take in the state of New Hampshire for something like this. And so in terms of operationally understanding what this cooperation would mean, doing trials like he's talking about and exploring what it would mean to blur the municipal boundaries for things like response will be very insightful to advise our consideration for something like a fire district. So to the dollars and cents, what you heard is, so something like EMS, for example. So I've got up on the screen Madbury. So you can see the fire station is just east of Winnie the Pooh Trail here, where you see that. Sorry, these pictures keep popping up. This whole Route 9 corridor is much closer for the public safety building than McGregor, which is located just off the tracks over here by the D in Durham, that provides their ambulance service. Likewise, this corner of the Route 4 corridor, which is Barrington, right? This entire mobile home park, all of this neighborhood that's south of Route 4 is much closer for McGregor than it is for Barrington. And so we're not saying that we're just going to automatically respond along Route 9 for ambulance calls in Madbury to see what the dynamic is. We're saying we're going to do that, and McGregor's are going to respond to Route 4.
Right, but I still would say that you should be able to predict what the cost is of a truck and ambulance people going to service somebody in Madbury. Or
That's
them
part of the
coming
consideration. You all looked at call volume
We did.
in those areas to try to balance
But did
that.
you look at a fully loaded cost in terms of wear and tear and things? That's where we need to go.
But why would the wear and tear on our ambulance be different than the wear and tear on the McGregor ambulance, I guess, in terms of trying to balance the scales on a call-by-call basis?
Right. But I guess from my perspective, thinking about residents in Barrington, they don't want to provide some to other towns just in the name of regionalization.
No, I think what they want is they want an ambulance at their doorstep as soon as
I
possible.
agree.
And what we're providing to the residents that live in the Route 4 corridor is the closest ambulance to you is that McGregor ambulance. And we're going to trial a program that puts that McGregor ambulance at your door automatically
And
as
that's
soon as
fine.
possible.
And what I'm saying
Yeah.
though is that that shouldn't be at the expense of Barrington finances. Right? So you may go through the trial 6 months and say, okay, we're going to go back, we're going to look at this, how many calls were there? What is the fully loaded cost for each call? For all of it, and then say, okay, here's what the difference is. But certainly, if there's no true up at that point, I don't know why we would go further along if we're financially worse off for having done that.
But I don't think we will know that unless we do this.
And I'm saying that,
And I
right?
think this is a good.
But I
road
think
to go
that there's a
down.
way we could model it out. We know what percent gets.
What concerns me more is the unpaid bills. I
But
think,
that's
from
the whole
Barrington
thing,
residents
right?
that have had an ambulance come to their house and they're just saying, well, I'm not going to pay. I think that's a bad business model.
You don't
for
want to
us.
advertise that,
Just saying, well,
because nobody will pay.
You know, the reason I've never shied away from advertising that is because the part of that dynamic, which has always irritated me, and I've talked to the folks on the phone, the honest people who get the bill, can't pay it, but make the sacrifices necessary to pay it, when the delinquent, who was never going to pay it anyways, doesn't pay it and there's no consequences. So to be fair to Chief Janelle, him and I haven't had an in-depth conversation about this offline. So give us an opportunity to talk about that and explore options. The challenge is there's no quick fix. We've looked at our collection rates compared to collection rates of agencies that send to collections, and you're getting pennies on the dollar when you go to collections in that dynamic. And the difference isn't huge. The difference is not, we're not balancing our budget on unpaid ambulance bills. And there's something, Chief Walker, the big emotional part for him was, here are residents who have paid taxes their whole life. They pay taxes to subsidize this ambulance, and that should be enough. For the people that aren't insured or don't have enough insurance or other situation is, that should be enough. We went down the rabbit hole briefly of exploring a billing policy that set a different billing policy for residents and non-residents. So that policy that we have now would be the policy for Barrington residents, taxpayers in Barrington, and we'd have a separate policy for folks that don't pay taxes in Barrington. Their lawyer actually said there's probably a way to do it, but it died on the vine because that's a
Complex.
we were overcomplicating things there. So anyways, give me and the chief an opportunity to talk about it and other officers that may have insights from other agencies. And we can explore if that's something that we want to ask this group for a recommendation
But the
on.
service is extremely important as well.
Essential.
We said, yes,
Essential.
Right, but I mean, if we're going to go down the Madberry,
I understand.
we should be break even.
Yes, I agree with that, but it's important service.
but if
However it comes out,
Yeah.
whether they
Right.
force it or whatever
that's
happens.
that's what we're going to know.
Right.
When you run this program, and I think it's a good road to go down. I do. Thanks. So, all right. Other questions?
Nope.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the meeting on the 10th will be recorded also. It will be in Lee, but it will be recorded, and we'll be able to get that up on our YouTube channel. Everybody can get an update and kind of see how it's received by the 3 select boards.
Okay, so now we're on to next week.
Questions for budgets to be reviewed at November 5th meeting? Buildings, highways, transfer, general assistance. Questions?
I think for me, again, I think I think it's mostly the conversation we have with them at the time. I don't think I have any advance.
Okay.
I just want to, I noticed the the electronics removal has decreased significantly. And also bulky waste. And I just wonder if that's, is that going to be sustainable moving forward, or this is based upon 1 year's data, or?
Yeah, the electronics removal, well, as you well know, one of the big swings on that is how much staff time we are able to dedicate to decreasing the cost and actually adding value to the electronics by removing cords and processing the electronics, maybe the best way to say it. And so you'll see historically that is a number that we've been able to really gain a lot of ground on in no small responsibility of the lead attendant at the transfer station. Bulky waste, it's been interesting, you know, Mona, and I'm sure you probably have seen this data, but ever since we brought the bulky waste rates up to what is necessary to cover our costs and instituted the contractor hauler form, we've seen a pretty tremendous decrease in utilization of bulky waste, which is great. We shouldn't be processing waste that isn't from Barrington and isn't, you know, there appropriately. And so that has been the trend. One of the things that I'll say, which gives us a little bit of wiggle room in terms of is it sustainable and are those numbers right, is now that we have the revolving fund, if we ever ended up in a situation where we saw unanticipated utilization and we under budgeted, we have that cushion to be able to pull from and not budget. So, you know, I applaud Aaron for proposing a tight budget that reflects anticipated utilization. It's not as easy to do that when you don't have the relief valve of the revolving fund, because if you don't have the money, you don't have the money.
To that end, somewhat, are we enforcing residents only? I mean, the stickers on the cars? I mean, I go to the transfer station, I often see cars, no stickers. Is anyone saying, hey?
We've had a number of conversations about that in the transfer committee meetings. It's kind of hard.
One of the bigger challenges at that facility for enforcing the stickers is the layout, right? So there's no attendant at the gate. The first attendant that you're driving by is occupied at the compactors for the MSW and monitoring bags and things like that. You go to recycling, the attendant at recycling is running compactors, not looking at vehicles in the yard. You have an attendant that's running the register who can't see enough through the plexiglass to, you know if you're dressed or not. And you have the attendant in the yard that's attending to the bulky waste. So I think the highest likelihood of enforcement for the stickers is at the bulky waste, because they're at the vehicles and they're unloading and they're looking at contractor hauler forms and things like that.
I mean, you can also put somebody at the entrance, and when the cars come in, they say,
Who are you
well,
gonna
that's
put?
the question.
It'd be good to audit and see how big the problem is.
Right, true, but for me,
Interesting.
when I go there and I see these cars without stickers,
Yeah.
Just came from that meeting.
come on. Is it a matter of just someone saying, hey, you know, you're supposed to have a sticker, do you have one? Is it something, again?
They do that
gentle
if
pressure.
they see it. If they do notice it, they will do that. But to have somebody, you know, who is that going to be, that person standing there when?
I feel a lot better about it now than I did, say, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, our trash bag prices were not high enough to cover our cost of disposal. Our bulky waste system was very difficult to implement for the attendants, and it made it so we weren't recovering our costs. We are more than recovering our costs for trash bags and MSW. That covers most of and sometimes all of the recycling disposal as well, which again is a cost. And the bulky waste, as I said, is we're recovering our costs. And so that facility is very lightly subsidized by taxes. And so utilization, because it's pay as you throw, even if somebody from a neighboring community comes in there, they're not getting a bargain. You know, we're not really shifting costs to taxpayers on that. We actually had a meeting with the town of Madbury. The town of Madbury doesn't have a transfer station facility. And they asked us to say what it would take to give their residents the opportunity to dispose of waste at the Barrington transfer station. And because our utilization has gone down and Madbury's super small, there probably wouldn't really be a lot operationally that would make a difference. But the consideration is, okay, how do you sticker them? What do you charge them? You know, we'd have to charge the town of Madbury a flat fee for availability of, and then the residents would still have to pay as they throw, just like Barrington residents would. But the point of bringing that up is the utilization of the facility is doing a good job collecting the funds necessary to run the facility. Those costs will go up and that dynamic will change, but it was a bigger problem when our rates were a lot. Every contractor around knew the cheapest place to get rid of construction debris was Barrington.
And that said, I would still like to see some sort of a more robust, I don't want to call it enforcement, but check
Of the
method
stickers.
of, hey, you're supposed to have a sticker, where's your sticker? Is somebody
Bill, I'd
there?
like to invite you to our next meeting. to
Well,
talk
that's-
about
that's
this.
a
And you know, this is what I did my whole life, so it's not a big deal for me, but I get it. It's tough to walk up to people and say that if you haven't done that before, if that's not something you're comfortable with.
No, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that you have to have a head count to actually a body to actually be able to do.
True.
But I think what I heard from Bill, which isn't a terrible idea, and we've done this in some other situations at the transfer station, is doing not gentle pressure applied rigorously, relentlessly, but doing unannounced almost audits of, you know, getting somebody there, and, you know, maybe it's Aaron, maybe it's somebody, you know, in addition to the operational staff that is, you know, once a quarter doing that. You know, I lived in Barrington for 5 years before I knew that there was a weight limit for the trash bags. Now, of course, it's printed on the trash bags. Shows you how much I read on the trash bags, read the smudged ink on the trash bags. But that, I want to follow all the rules. Gosh, like, you know, but it's, and so I've suggested before, you know, hey, have somebody there, not to like catch people, but hey, look, you know, the bags are supposed to be 35 pounds or whatever it is. But so yeah, maybe that's what I'm hearing is a suggestion to ensure that the policies are being followed. I'll tell you that the rollout of the stickers was mired in controversy because the select board did not approve making the stickers mandatory. There was a select board member who appropriately pointed out that state law prohibits stickers on windows. And despite the fact that inspection stickers go on windows and all the rest, and despite the fact that the police chief said we don't enforce that, the select board was convinced that, you know, we're not going to require stickers. So
we don't require stickers?
We did.
We do. We do, but we didn't. The first round of stickers was a voluntary participation program. But anyways, okay. Relay that message. We can talk about that more next week if we need to.
Anybody else?
And the fund has been building up money as we expected to, it look like?
Yeah, so we have about $100,000. We expect to have about another $100,000 this year. I don't have a debrief yet on the motivation, interest level of increasing fees.
Oh, we had a lively discussion today. You'll see.
What is the flavor of the committee? I had recommended targeting increasing our total collections by another 20%.
We didn't know how much that 20% was. We needed Peter at the meeting
Oh,
today,
okay.
but we did
Okay.
raise.
Bags, trash bags,
Oh, yeah.
2, the proposal, 24, 25,
Yep, 24.
24.
Yep. There were some other changes to mattresses.
Yep.
We kind of took some of the $6 and $8 ones and bumped those up to 10. We did what we felt was reasonable.
And I don't envy the group for having to consider that. I mean, you remember when we had that joint meeting, it's, the RFP for waste disposal is due in a couple weeks. And we'll know then what we didn't know before about how bad it's going to be.
Be ugly.
It's going to be ugly though. And I feel very proud of the work that we've done so far. So we have 92,000, no, I'm an ambulance. Was it 98 that we collected in 2024? Yeah, 98,144. And we're tracking similarly. The rates didn't go up, so we won't, or rates didn't go up aggressively. And so we'll probably end up ending 2025 with about $200,000. And then if we're able to increase rates by 20%, then that will mean we'll end up collecting 20% of 325 is 60,000 or six. Yeah, if that's increased to another 60,000, so we'll probably collect like 150,000 in 2026 if we're able to do that. So then we'll end 2026 with a little pot of $350,000 to, again, I've said it before, my best guess is that the smartest thing for the town to do will be buy our own 10-wheel roll-off truck, do our own hauling, and use that truck for winter maintenance operations also. That isn't a foregone conclusion. We're collecting all the data, we're doing that, but I think it's important to anticipate where we're headed. So.
And that would be billed out through the bag fees and all that still, right? A little bit, I guess we need somebody to do the hauling, so there'll be an FTE count.
Yes, so that, one of the things I really like about that plan.
You can sell the garbage can.
We are collecting data on curbside pickup. I don't expect we'll have the stomach for it, but we're collecting the data. But no, to your point about the FTE, absolutely, that will add to the operating costs of the transfer station. Right now, we pay, and I could get you the numbers, but we pay $110 a haul for every trip between transfer station and turnkey. So those will be costs that we won't have, which will be rolled into the operating costs in terms of what it will take to have an FTE and have the equipment, maintain the equipment, et cetera.
How often that happens, the transfer?
Twice a week. As needed, at least twice a week. But operationally, one of the things that really excites me about that is we know that our winter contractors are going away. We also know that we have increased needs in facilities and grounds with this building and the library, and we have more. Well, we got the whole list. We have more that we have to maintain since the school stopped providing those services to the town. And so as we're ramping up. So dream with me for a minute, that the FTE that we add is part of the winter maintenance team. So we lose a contractor, guess what? We have a position, we have equipment, and now that's a one-for-one replacement. So we're saving money there. Those funds are diverted towards the operations of this position and whatnot. 2 days a week or half a day, 2 days a week, this position is responsible for hauling cans. And terrific, great. Good use of equipment, good use of time. And the balance of the time, and when there's no winter maintenance, they're part of the facilities and grounds team. Mm-hmm. Or, dream with me for a minute, we're not the only ones in this situation looking at increased hauling fees. We have the equipment and staff. We can sell those services to communities and haul for them. And so I think I am of the opinion, based on the data we've analyzed so far, that the dollars and cents of that transition are logical. Whether or not that's the best decision will depend on the rest of the data that we get. But when we get a number from Waste Management that says, yeah, we'll haul for you at $500 a haul, when you're paying 110 now, that's going to be the part where we know we have to do something different.
I like your dream. I'm in favor of that dream.
Well, we're prepared for it. We're prepared with options. We have options and we're prepared. And I feel very proud about that because it's easy to bury your head in the sand and say, hey, we got a sweetheart 8-year, 9-year contract with Waste Management and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But the numbers are going to be shocking enough that having
Coming to the bridge.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. General assistance, was there anything there? We'll probably see an uptick in utilization given the SNAP stuff and coming into winter, but knock on wood, this year has been, we've seen utilization go down. There's obviously a report in chapter 12 of our historic utilization, how much we've been spending per client, and probably the most insightful part of that analysis is the average instances of support per client is less than 2. So what that advises is that our general assistance as emergency welfare assistance gets people back on their feet, finds either additional support services or a sustainable situation for them, and we don't provide ongoing support. You know, we're not here to provide ongoing assistance. We're here to provide emergency assistance, get people back on their feet, connect them with other available resources, and get them into a sustainable situation. And the data shows we do that well, which is good. Okay.
Motion to adjourn, I would entertain.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Consider us adjourned.